How often do you see something and you wish that it could be a little better, so they put out a sequel to it, and you go to see the sequel and you're like, oh, okay, not as good, but okay, you know. And then they put out another one, and then another one, and then another one. You know I'm gonna say it. And then
that one.
Studios have increasingly, over the last several years, they've cranked out a combination of calculated crap and actual crap as placeholders, and or just calling them sequels. They attempt, they really do, and some of them unforgivably so, to innovate on the original, and nobody ever quite seems to get it. Well, I have been a fan of Clive Barker for a long time. I can't remember when it was that I read the first time I ever read Hellbound Heart, but I remember it was a novella. It was paperback, and it had the Hellbound Heart and a couple of other stories in it. When they said that they were going to make a film of it, I was cautious and dubious, and then I heard that Clive Barker was going to be involved. Little did I know at that time that he had had a really, really horrible experience allowing Rawhead Rex to be made into a film. And kind of like Woody Allen, like he was just like, nah, I'm not letting anybody touch my stuff ever again unless I'm involved with it. And so when Hellraiser came out, it was really pretty good. I mean, you have Doug Jones in there, who is now sort of a household name with his character acting and creature work. But, you know, back at that time, Pinhead was a new thing. And when that second film came out, I was like, oh boy, what have they got to work with? What's left? And it was one of those rare occasions, I think, in my life anyway, in my experiences, that it was a film which took everything that was good about the original and really kind of expanded and made it bigger and more ugly. And, you know, it was pretty amazing. And then they gave us Hellraiser 3, which had the CD Cenobite, because CDs were a new thing, a big thing at the time. So visually, somebody thought that would be a good idea. I'm not going to give out a lot of spoilers when I talk about these films, but a couple of things I do need to point out just to sort of prove how far into the toilet this series kind of went. You got away from that into, space. It's never a good idea to move a horror story into space. It kind of signals jumping the shark, and things are at an all-time low for you creatively. If you have to put something in space, people, that's coming right along with Alan Smithy as the director, I think. But and oddly enough, though, I love I love the entry where they did kind of put this one. They did put Hellraiser out in space. I like that. But things got progressively worse and worse and worse over several different sequels, which got further and further and further away from everything that had made the original two films really pretty good. This Hulu film came out. They partnered with Hulu to get this next Hellraiser made, and or it was sold to Hulu as a completed project because they didn't have any faith in their own releasing of it. I have not looked into it in terms of reading the wiki or anything like that. I like to consume art for what it is. Put it in front of me. Don't give me other people's attitudes as a side. And just let me chew it up and regurgitate it and chew it up again like a dog with vomit. Where am I going with this? No, I like to consume art and on my own pace and in my own way, and then give you an honest opinion of what I think. I'm not going to give away any spoilers here when I say this, but when I sat down to watch this Hulu movie, I was absolutely like expecting the next bottom of the barrel sequel, of which there are a lot in this series. A lot of garbage. This movie, however, it's that kind of film that like you would hope somebody would take such a really great premise, and in order to reboot it, rework it, they loved the material as much as you did, say. That's happened for people with The Mandalorian. You know, Star Wars fans love The Mandalorian, and they're like, you know, thank you for giving us something of worth in the Star Wars universe that we can actually be proud of. In this case, somebody sat down to write a screenplay, and though it is 2 hours in length, this is not a short horror film. It's not a short reboot, but it hits all the marks that you would hope for a reboot to hit successfully. And I don't say that lightly, being a fan of the original text, being a fan of the first two films, being a fan here and there of some of the cheesier stuff that did happen over the next like 6 or 7 films, I don't even know. But I was always there I was always there for it. I always rented it when it came out, and then bought a copy of it and added it to my collection because I was a completist, still am, with film series. But I was more than pleasantly surprised by the acting, production, the detail someone's eye had towards the first two films, because there are elements of those films which sort of shine through on this film without being cheesy, without being sort of stick out like a sore thumb, outspoken kind of, thirst callback to the other films. This one stands on its own. The actors in this film are great. The new female lead is like this awesome, adorable art chick that everybody's gonna love. Okay. She reminds me sometimes of Jennifer Grey, the woman who was in Dirty Dancing. back when she was that age. But like in a very hip, pierced sort of 30, 40 years later sort of sensibility, if that makes any sense. She doesn't play it like Kirsty. They don't run this thing by the old standbys of the series. So if you're familiar with all of them, including the bad ones, there's nothing in this that is necessarily hearkening back to anything but the original source material. There are interesting nods to the original two films here and there, but they're so subtle and they're really wonderfully done. And this thing is really more of all about the puzzle box. The puzzle box is something that has turned into, and I don't say this about Coscarelli's work willingly, but they've kind of turned it into the flying sphere from the Phantasm films. It's become this thing instead of a key. And so the interesting thing that I found about this is that they do come up with actual reasons for the configurations of the puzzle box changing, distorting, getting stuck in ways. There's an interesting blood element to it every time it changes shape. But they really expand on all of that stuff. And now it makes me feel like I want to go back and watch the first two again, because especially in the second one, there are configurations of the box in the sky with a light coming out of it, if I remember correctly. God, it's been a really long time since I've watched the first two films, obviously. But if you have access to Hulu, or if this film is playing on any of the other services that you have, or if you have the chance to pick it up in hard copy, like I will be looking for soon, do so. Absolutely. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Just go right out and pick it up. If you're a fan of Hellraiser, if you're a fan of the Cenobites, if you're a fan of Clive Barker, you're gonna like everything here. As a side note too, and I'm not gonna talk about it anymore, but as a side note, I was super happy, and I hate to say this, but sort of surprised at how well the parts of Riley's brother and his boyfriend are played, because I always feel like, especially in Clive Barker's work, there ought to be some sort of representations, healthy representations of the LGBTQ community. It's a wonderful job that the writing has done here for both of these characters and for the audience watching. Anyway, I don't want to turn that into a big deal, because it's not. But it is something that I noticed in a couple of watches now. I have sat through this film twice, and I'm going to sit through it again pretty soon. Anyway, thank you very much for coming out to the first Freelance Primate movie review in a very long time. Been focusing a lot on toys, and I just I needed to get this off my chest. Hellraiser's back in an excellent way. If this is any indication, I can't wait to see what they do with the series going forward. And what they'll do is okay by me. Wow. Good stuff. Thanks very much for coming out here to the Monkey Shine Lab, everybody. If you like what you see here, please leave a message and subscribe if you like. Not every show is the same. What we try to do is stir the pot. So one day you're going to see stuff about diecast, another day you're going to see stuff about action figures, another day about comics. Today was about a movie. You never know what you're going to get, but you know it's going to be worth wasting a lot of time on, because I'm long-winded. Anyway, thanks very much for coming out here to Monkey Shine Lab, and we will see you all again tomorrow with something different. Promise.